So is this a practice or is this the actual thing?
This is a real thing.
Are you fucking with the tick?
Are you fucking with the tick?
This is Barbie Jitsu podcast number 4. Can't believe we made it this far.
Yeah, no kidding.
I'm here again with Irene, this time on camera, so you're going to see the face behind the voice.
Hi.
And I'm excited today because you actually just got back from the New Orleans half marathon.
Yeah.
You did really well.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Well, you set a goal and you crushed it.
Yeah.
And then you met some famous people. And it was really cool. So I wanted to bring Irene on because I definitely want to hear more about that. So why don't you just tell us about your little weekend endeavor?
Okay. Yeah, so my brother and I drove from Cincinnati to New Orleans last weekend for a fun weekend and my first of my 50 states quest that I'm doing with half and full marathons.
Do you want to talk about that really quick in case you're not a runner?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not a
So
runner.
the 50 states quest thing, it's pretty big in the marathoning community, but a lot of people only do it for halves or only do it for full marathons. But I'm doing it for both because I'm just now stepping in the waters of full marathoning and I'm not sure I'll like it just yet.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm doing the 50 states thing because my dad passed away at the young age of 59 and it just made me want to travel the country and perhaps the world.
Well,
And
his passing was a little traumatic. It was unexpected and pretty messy.
Very unexpected, very messy.
Yeah.
I'm still working with my mom and my brother almost every day to help them.
Process it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. Grief is a tough thing.
My mom's just trying to find everything she can just to get closure on the whole situation.
Yeah. Well,
Anyways,
but it's healthy for you to be, setting goals to help you process.
Yeah.
Because I've lost very close family members as well. So grief is a tough thing to deal with. But it was cool that you decided to do this kind of in his memory, right? When you first decided to. Yeah.
I mean, the eventual goal is to qualify and get into the Boston Marathon by 2022 so that I can run it on his birthday that year. I know.
Okay.
I mean, if I get in earlier, so be it.
Well, you have to do that now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm close to qualifying perhaps, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, back to the New Orleans thing.
Yeah.
I picked the course because it's a flat fast course, and I figured I could really break down my half marathon PR again.
Mm-hmm.
I started out, when I first started doing half marathons, I barely trained and my nutrition was poor, and I managed to roll in around 2 hours for a half marathon.
All right. Now, what was the one before New Orleans? How fast did you run that? Because you had been training more consistently and eating right.
Right. I did the Queen Bee half marathon in Cincinnati back in October of last year, and I ran that in an hour and 47 minutes.
Oh, sweet. Okay. So then when you were preparing for New Orleans, and you've told me this, but everybody else doesn't know this, you set a certain goal for yourself for New Orleans, right?
Right, and it was to break an hour and 40 minutes.
Okay. So sub 140.
Mm-hmm.
All right. How fast did you run that whole marathon? Half marathon.
1:39:17.
So you cut it in under the wire.
Yeah.
8-minute PR in what, a little over a year? A little under a year.
Little less than a year. Actually, less than 6 months.
Less than 6 months. You shaved 8 minutes off your run time.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
That's
it's
insane.
crazy. I mean, with longer races like marathons and half marathons, it's pretty normal to get your times down that quickly once you start training properly.
Clearly, you have not run with me.
Hey, it's okay.
My times will not come down that fast. Ever.
But it was also, compared to the Queen Bee, New Orleans was very flat and fast, and it was warm.
But not like humid, was it? What was the weather like compared to Ohio?
It was 70 and sunny, so I got a pretty gnarly back sunburn.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But
that's the worst thing that can happen during a marathon.
But otherwise, there was a slight cool breeze. The humidity wasn't bad. If it was bad, I would have been coughing up phlegm.
So basically you had the perfect running weather, the perfect course, and then you crushed your goal.
Yeah, and I even came across a girl along the way who was keeping up with me, and she's like, "What are you aiming for?" And I'm like, 140-ish, and she said, "I'm aiming for 143-ish." I think we got this. And we just, like, pushed each other to the end.
Oh, love
she
that.
finished maybe 4 seconds behind me.
You guys Barbie Jitsu'd each other.
Yes, we did. I thought of that during the race.
I'm sorry. Yes! You made a run friend. Okay.
And speaking of
Girlfriends.
Barbie Jitsuing, I met the OG of Barbie Jitsuing in
Oh,
the
yeah!
women's running community, Catherine Switzer.
Yeah, that's it. That's, for those of you who don't know, which you should know, but I only learned this a couple days ago myself. Catherine Switzer was the first woman to run the Boston Marathon.
To actually register and run it.
To register and run it.
Because many others before have just run it as bandits, meaning they just hopped on the course.
Because what are you going to do? Shove them off the sidewalk?
Right.
Okay.
Because back then, women were perceived as too weak to run the marathon, or if they trained for it, they would grow facial hair, and their uterus would fall out.
Like if you lift weights, you're going to get like really butch, but like...
Yeah. And
where's my biceps?
Right.
I don't know. Why don't I look like a man yet?
Right.
I've been in this for years.
But anyways, the race director, his name was Jacques.
Love it.
Yeah. He noticed Catherine on the course about a mile or two in, and he got very angry and tried to like pull her off the course. But her like all-American linebacker boyfriend was just not having it, and he pushed the race director off the course. And she said, I'm going to finish this race come hell or high water.
Men are not trash
Right.
when they behave like that.
Yeah.
I love it.
And she finished it, I think 4 hours, 20 minutes, but she paved the way for women's running.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's such a cool person to meet, even though, like, I know nothing about the running community, and I probably, like, I would have to be running for my life to run that far or even that fast. Meeting Catherine Switzer would be a really cool experience, just because, like, that takes some steel testicles, some ovaries of steel, to really, like, to say I'm gonna do that, because I'm sure, like, she could have put herself in like physical danger. Mm-hmm. She did it anyway.
Yeah, she proved to her coach at Syracuse, like, hey, I can do this. She ran 31 miles with her coach, and he's like, let's get you in.
She can do it, yeah. And she had to register under K. Switzer, right?
KV Switzer.
KV Switzer, so that they wouldn't know she was a girl.
Yeah, and that wasn't even like the whole reason behind it. It was because her name was misspelled on her birth certificate, but it just worked out that way.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, the more ambiguous you can be, the better. Like, don't give people... that's really cool. So she ran it in how long? Like 4 hours and something?
4 hours, 20 minutes.
How fast do women run marathons now?
Oh my gosh. Like Jordan Hasse, she runs in like 2 hours, 20 minutes, which is insanely fast.
How fast does Catherine Switzer run now?
Well, she's 70 years old, and she's probably running about a 3:35 marathon, probably, which is what I'm aiming for to qualify for Boston.
Okay, so she's like still a badass.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely. And she's
it.
such a sweet, warm personality. Like, I got chills like when I was waiting in line to meet her.
Yeah.
And
Did
like
you feel
she
like
just
you met your hero?
Oh my gosh, yes. And she just came up and gave me a hug, and she's like, "Where'd you come in from?" I'm like, "Cincinnati." She's like, "Oh boy." And then she got introduced to my brother, and she shook his hand, and he's like, "She's got a firm handshake."
Yeah, she does.
And
yeah, she does.
We talked about how like our dads got us into running because her dad got her in, and I asked her, I was like, "Did your dad make it to see you run Boston?" And she's like, "Oh yeah." And I'm like, I showed her my bracelet that had my dad's ashes in it, and I was like, "I'm taking my dad with me."
You're gonna make me cry.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay. I'm fine. That's just like, that's so cool. Like, that's a woman who has arrived in life, like, and is taking people with her. Like, that is so cool.
I mean, she's got this whole program called 261, where she gets running groups across the country of women who just want to run.
Yeah.
261 Fearless. That's what it's called.
261 Fearless. Yeah. No, that's so cool that they tried to pull her off the course, because we were just talking the other day about running groups, because like you did your senior design capstone on it, and like obviously you're part of a running group, and that recently has started changing.
Yeah.
Which I know you're a little bit upset about, because it's not anything you can fix, but
Right.
You said that they were starting to charge you
Yeah.
to run, and this is something that blows my mind, because like running is free for the world, isn't
Right.
it? Like
Yeah.
it's free, like it's free, like you, okay, so like if you're paying money to meet up with a group of people and go run outside.
Yeah.
And so, but why would you pay money? I can't wrap my mind around why you would pay money for that.
Charging dues to be a part of something. It's a little weird. I mean, I think
so. It's it's like a super secret running club, and if you don't pay the money, you can't be part of the super secret running club.
I guess.
What are they gonna do? Push you off the sidewalk, like in the traffic?
No, I'll find.
You can't run with us.
Well, I think the guy who bought our running group and store out, his model is maybe a little too tight because other stores and groups do charge for training plans.
Yeah,
but being
that
part
makes
of
sense.
being part of the group is free.
Right. Well,
But
it makes sense to pay for something of value. Like, it makes sense to me to pay for a product or to pay for, like, teaching. So if there was professional coaches, or even to pay for I guess, practice area. Because, like, I mean, when I played rugby, we played rugby dues. Like, if you showed up and practiced with us, we weren't going to push you off the field. If you showed up and, like, came to the games, maybe you wouldn't get to play in the game. But, like, you know, paying the dues to pay for what we needed, that makes sense to me. But, like, from my understanding, your run group just meets up at the running store and then takes off through Cincinnati.
And we never needed, like, water jugs along the stops.
Because you have your Camelbacks.
Yeah, we had Camelbacks and fuel belts, and we just bought our own stuff from the store, and that's how we supported our group. We bought our singlets from the store.
That's still so funny. It's just, I can't wrap my mind around it. I don't know, like, why would you pay to run?
Yeah.
I just don't get it. But
I may eventually hire a coach, like, if I am close enough to qualifying for Boston but need that extra push.
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah, well, but at that point, it's a valuable product that you need. You know,
Right.
It's information you don't have. It's something you want to accomplish. I mean, that's why could I have looked up how to do jiu-jitsu on YouTube? Probably. Would I be any good at it? Maybe, but the chances are a heck of a lot slimmer. So, like,
when you're working with more of an expert like Jim.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then, of course, like, I pay for the facility, and I help, you know, pay for everything else that he does. Like, he's bringing Marcelo in for a seminar, which I'm super excited about.
Oh, yeah.
At the end of the month. I'm stoked for that because, like, I don't know very much about jiu-jitsu yet, but I have figured out that Marcelo is really good at jiu-jitsu. So the fact that he's coming, like, a half mile away from my house to teach, I'm going to be there with, like, my little notepad, my little notebook, and, like my pencil, and, like, probably just on information overload. I'll probably come home and pass out, and then, like, just, like, looking into a black hole. I'm already mentally preparing my brain for it. But, you know, that's still something really valuable. Like, you pay people who have a valuable piece of information or product for you. And so, like, yeah, get a coach if you feel like you need somebody to push you through, but also, like are you going to pull them off the course? Like, I guess that's it. Like, if you don't pay for your running group, are you going to pull them off the course?
Right. It's
I don't know.
No, like, I live here. I'm going to run on the streets.
Yeah.
Deal with it.
Yeah. That's nuts. But it's still really cool because we're coming into the warm season. So, like, now, like, I know that your training is pretty intense. Like, you've already referred to it as a second full-time job.
It pretty much is. Like, it's a whole different beast compared to half marathon training.
Yeah.
Half marathon training, I could still lift pretty heavy weights 2 days a week and get my 4 days of running in and not feel drained.
Yeah.
But now, like, with almost double the mileage during the week, and I just ran my first 20 miles today, it's a lot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we talked too because you were getting really down on yourself in the gym one day with me, and we talked a lot about how, you know, now you're training for a different purpose. Like, you're not training for strength. I train for strength. You know, I always have, because I'm not a runner, and, you know, even though, like, now I know how to train for jiu-jitsu a little bit more, it's still a lot of strength and endurance training. But we talked about how we had to set this boundary, and this like boundary for you to understand that you are not training for strength, so you need to, like, train appropriately for your races, but also, like, train your mind to be more forgiving of the fact that you are not training for strength anymore, and you need to, like, because you were really, I mean, you were just really hard on yourself because you were just, you weren't as strong as you're used to being, but it was like, but you're also running twice as many miles as you're used to running.
The weightlifting now is more for maintenance, making sure I stay injury free, because I have like an ongoing battle with IT band syndrome, which is this long band along the leg that you feel it manifesting around the knee.
Yeah.
And it's annoying.
Yeah, any kind of knee pain is. I feel it. I've got a hip with tendonitis and all kinds of junk, but yeah, like you've done a really good job though, because you have stayed injury free and your IT band is not half as bad as it was last year.
Oh, of course not. And on top of the weightlifting, which I recommend any runner do, 6 days a week of running is just torture. Even though I love to run, 6 days is just too much.
Yeah, well, there's only so much running a person can do.
Yeah, adding in 2 days a week of weightlifting, it doesn't even have to be heavy.
Well, and you're still progressively getting stronger, I've noticed.
Yeah, it helps with my speed for sure.
Yeah, because you have more power. Yeah. Well, and I just think it's really important too to understand your limits, because like as a designer and as a woman, we know that like our most creative and most like important things that we do come when we're very limited. Like when you have a problem and you only have 3 ways to solve it or 2 ways to solve it, you get really creative fast. And so, you've been able to get really creative in your workouts because you've got all this running to do and only so much energy and so many hours in the week, and you do have your regular life. Like you have your work and you have your hobbies and you have your side hustles for your extra cash.
And sleep.
And so, what's that?
Very necessary.
I don't know what that is.
But it helps with muscle growth. I'm just kidding.
No, I don't
repair.
I swear to God, I don't feel like I've slept since I was like 12 years old.
Oh man, I thrive on sleep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm queen of the 4-hour accidental nap. So I either have to like get all my sleep in the night, or manage to drink enough coffee to stay alive through the day. So, because if I'm like, oh, I'm just gonna lay down and take 20 minutes. 2 hours later, I like come up for air once, like, oh, I should get up, but I still got 2 hours of sleep left in me. So I go back down. But yeah, you've had to set boundaries in your training. You've even told me like, some people, and this happens in all the communities, but some people are like, oh, I'm gonna go beast mode, right? And they go 7 days a week, any kind of weather, any kind of anything. And so, but you kind of have felt out your own body and been like, okay, I shouldn't train under certain circumstances, and like maybe beast mode isn't a good idea. It might work for somebody else, but for me, not so much.
Right. I'm actually working on a blog post about it, because back in January when we had the crazy winter weather,
I mean the 18 days below freezing?
18 days below freezing, sheets of ice, under sheets of snow, under sheets of ice. There was one girl in my running group in particular. She's not really like an elite runner per se, but she's really gotten into running, and I'm proud of her because she found an outlet for all her struggles through it. But she made a post on her Facebook one day and had several pictures of a clock that said 4 o'clock in the morning, a screen grab of the weather saying -4 degrees on her side of town, and then sheets of ice and snow on her roads, because they don't clean the roads very well out where she lives either. And then $40 yak tracks, which are these things you strap onto your shoes so you have traction.
It's like chains, right? Because runners used to like actually put screws and nails in their running shoes for traction.
That's just track spikes for track and cross country, but the yak tracks are kind of like, you've lived in Colorado.
I have a pair for walking around when it's icy.
That, and when my mom lived in Colorado, she was told she needed chains for her car when she drove out to Grand Junction.
Yeah, so it's like chains for your shoes.
But they're like $40.
So she ran on those?
Like, she had to put those on her shoes and run out there. But her caption for all of these photos, and she also had this picture where she was pointing to where it said for that particular day she had to run a certain amount of miles. She had this caption on there that said, "This is how marathon training actually looks." And for a minute, I was just like, good on you for getting your workout in, but my joints say no to that.
Right.
I am going to the treadmill.
Well, how old is she?
She's like 40-something.
Whoa. Okay, I was expecting like 20-something.
But she hasn't been running very long. She's only been running like
so she's
4
like in the
years.
heat of the passion for it. She's like really, but I mean, I automatically, anybody that's like, this is what it really is, I automatically roll my eyes so hard that they could fall right out of the back of my head, because like that to me is on the same level of like, this is a real woman. Like, okay, whatever, you know, so, and there's a lot of that, but yeah, I'll go to the gym at 4:00 in the morning.
Right.
When it's 4 degrees and icy out, but I won't. I mean, you wouldn't first of all, I think I'd be too afraid to run at 4:00 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's still dark and still cold, and like also nothing good happens after midnight. Mom always said.
Right.
So until like, I mean, I get it. Like she's in the heat of the like, she's found this new passion and she's like burning up with it, and you know, I can relate because I started a podcast named Barbie Jitsu because I was like, oh god, I like this so much and I'm gonna annoy everybody I love if I don't do something with it. So she might dial back. I mean, I used to beast mode in the gym, and
she actually kind of did after I started writing this post 2 months ago.
Well, maybe she was like, I don't like this enough to be outside at 4:00 in the morning for it.
She was just getting tired of winter and was like, I'm just going to start running loops around the track of the Y.
Yeah,
and I was like,
okay. But, you know, some people never realize that that they need to maybe establish a new boundary. Like, you have to cross your boundaries. You have to push past your comfort zone. I think that's really important. But you also have to know where you shouldn't push anymore.
Right.
And I think that everybody goes through a beast mode phase where they like push and push and push until they find where, you know, they shouldn't go past, and then they kind of snap back into the realm of reality and like, this is a good way to do this to the best of my ability. And like, I think it's really useful knowing that you can go out at 4:00 in the morning and run around on sheets of ice if you need to. I think that's really valuable to know that you have that capability and that boundary, but I also think it's not a sustainable plan. You know, like I talked about the long game with Jim, and I've talked about it with you too, because, you know, you've been talking about these things that you're dealing with and like your marathon training and all that. And you're very detail oriented, which is fantastic, but you tend to get really hard on yourself when you get a detail wrong, or like you just get a detail fuzzy. And so like, I know I've talked to you a lot about, okay, it's one meal. It's one run. It's 6 miles instead of 12 one day. You know, and I think that that's something that you have to go full beast mode, like full balls to the wall. I'm totally out of my mind before you can come back and be like, okay, but this is where I should live most of the time. And you know, that's really cool. But I'm glad that you've kind of learned your marathon running limits, because I worry about you when you're out running around and it's dark and cold out. Yeah. So I'm glad that you have, so just briefly, what limits have you set for yourself out of curiosity?
Okay, for example, with my speed workouts, I don't do outdoor track work if it's under 40 degrees, just for the sake of my lungs and my heart, because we have heart problems running in my family.
Yeah, and you're not sure if you got those yet, because they can't tell you.
Right. I am too poor to go see a doctor.
More like the doctors are too expensive to bother with anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. And then with distance runs, if I run anything over about 8 miles, my limit for cold is 10 degrees. Anything between 1 and 7 miles, my limit is 0 degrees. Otherwise, I take it to the treadmill.
That's lower limits than I would have. Like, lower temperature limits than I would have. But
I've learned to layer.
Yeah. Well, you have a lot of cute running clothes, so, you get to run around looking like a little advertisement for all your different... You're just adorable. Yeah. I love it. Love it.
I have kind of a limit right now until I get more familiar with where I'm living. I just moved up to Dayton from a little town north of Cincinnati called Lebanon. Lebanon was fairly safe, and I felt comfortable running at night there.
It's a little
wouldn't
ritzy.
say it's ritzy.
It's a little ritzy for Ohio.
Not where I lived in Lebanon, but
Okay, but every neighborhood has a poor side. It's okay.
Yeah.
But like Lebanon compared to Dayton, a little ritzy.
yeah.
It's Ohio money.
So I felt
Ohio Ritz.
pretty safe and comfortable running in Lebanon after dark, especially when the guy I was dating at the time was home and I could report to him if needed.
Yeah.
And I had my Nox gear vest that lights up. Because it was kind of like country-ish where I lived, so the lighting outside wasn't all that great. So I just wanted to see and be seen.
Yeah.
But
Well,
here-
safety is paramount. I mean,
Yeah. Here, I'm trying to avoid running at night as much as I can, just because I'm still unfamiliar with a lot of parts of this area, and I don't want to run into a spot that's extremely sketchy, because
yeah. Well,
far
and
as
if
I've
you got
heard-
lost in the dark, I'd be terrified. Even if
Yeah.
I was in a safe neighborhood and I didn't know where it was, I'd be terrified.
and I need to start carrying my phone with me on my run. I don't right now because it's big and bulky and it kind of like messes with my shoulder, but I should start carrying it just in case.
Yeah, I mean that's up to you, but I think I think you should take all the necessary and like I guess the most common or like best safety practices. Like I don't believe in going overboard and like not doing anything because of the thing that might happen,
Right.
but like if you ride a motorcycle, you should wear a helmet. It's a simple safety thing. If you ride a bike, you should wear a helmet. If you are, running at night, you should wear something that lights up. And I think that just makes sense. And as for your phone, it's really up to you. If you feel like that's like your basic safety level, then yeah. But I also think that you'll get more comfortable and just be, Dayton's a pretty good town. It gets a bad rap, but most of the people here are genuinely good people. And even if the neighborhoods look a little rough, it's mostly because nobody's loved them in the past 20 years.
I mean, where we live, close enough to the University of Dayton, from what I've seen, is pretty safe so far. I just don't want to venture too far west.
Yeah, yeah. But that's cool. Like, it's just, so when you were, you've been running for like 10 years.
A little over that.
A little over. At what point did you like manifest as like a runner? Like you're here and you are a runner, because it happened fairly recently.
Yeah.
In your time. So you had a moment, where you like arrived as a runner. You were like, I'm actually a runner.
I started running in 8th grade as something to do instead of soccer because I just didn't feel comfortable on that team anymore.
Well, you already told us a little bit about the mean girls that were on it and the coach that was less than ideal.
Yeah. So, I mean, I ran throughout middle school and high school, but I was kind of an idiot about it. I didn't really take it as seriously as I should have.
You were in high school.
My nutrition was awful. And
Again, you were in high school.
I was afraid to lift any weights. But I would,
school.
yeah. And then college hit, and being a commuter student, it was very hard for me to wiggle in any time to exercise. I actually joined UC's running club for a minute, and it was just awful because they're like, let's do 6 miles. Super easy, but their super easy was like Boston Marathon pace.
Yeah, you weren't ready for that yet.
And I just remember crying in the car on the way back up to my parents' house.
That's awful, yeah.
Because I just felt like I didn't belong. Then I joined Charge when they came to UC my 3rd year. And through that, I picked up weightlifting, dabbled with running again, and I was like, okay, I can run. I can lift weights, I feel good, but I kept falling off because I just couldn't find a balance in my schedules. Because I worked almost full time in college as well, on top of commuting.
Yeah, well, and DAP is no joke. The
it's
design school we went to is no joke.
Right.
So.
And then after graduation, I moved to Maryland and kind of got back into working out, did more weightlifting, and kind of got back into running then as well. but my nutrition, like, I was starting to, like, get a hang of, like, clean eating. Mm-hmm. But I just ate way too much, and I ballooned up to about 130 pounds.
You're a petite person, so that's a lot of weight on you.
Yeah. I remember seeing my driver's license picture when I first moved back to Ohio, and I was still that heavy, and it was bad.
Yeah. Well, and it takes a toll. Like, I mean, I feel like you reach a certain point in your life as an adult, and you kind of know what feels like you and who you are, and, like, you know, what you do, you know, you, the existential you, does. And so, you know, to see, and I still catch myself saying and doing things that aren't me, and I'm like, I'll catch myself and I'll be like, this is not who I am. This is not my look, you know. So it's tough when you see that physically manifested, you know, because in your heart, you're this athletic person. And then in real life, you're just like, why your full Mulan, your reflection does not show who you are inside.
Yeah. Well, back to when I was living in Maryland, I was dabbling with the idea, too, of maybe cutting down really well and training hard enough to maybe become a bikini competitor. I thought of that because it's like, I don't know many short girls doing this, and I have the booty for it. Might as well try it, especially since my IT band was just my IT band.
Booty. Get that booty. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay,
no worries.
Yes, but you do have a very nice butt.
Thank you.
Very nice booty. It's all about the derriere.
My IT band was starting to manifest its issues at the time, so I was like thinking about giving up running. And I was really starting to enjoy weightlifting, so I dabbled with the idea of doing bikini competitions as maybe like stepping into it, maybe doing one or two to give it a shot.
Extra motivation.
Yeah. But then when I moved back to Ohio, I was like, you know, maybe I shouldn't do this because it's taking away from other women who are really wanting this. So I actually took my weightlifting skills that I learned from looking into bikini competition training and mixed it in with running, and I started If It Fits Your Macros. And that helped me to lose 20 pounds in about 6 months.
And somewhere in there you were like, this is it. This is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm a runner now. I'm not the cruddy, way below average runner I was in high school anymore. I could potentially qualify for Boston. I'm going to keep doing it this way.
That's awesome. Yeah. But that's so cool because there's so much power in that manifestation. Like, you know, you kind of hit this point in your training, and I know because I was kind of in the peripheral when you hit it, where you were like, I don't care if I'm not the best in the world anymore. I'm out here because I love it and I am good at it. And like whenever you have a bad day and I make you say like really stupid positive things, what do I always make you stop on?
I'm a good runner.
Yeah, great runner. Yeah. But that's, I feel like as women, we really struggle to manifest ourselves because, and I feel this pressure all the time, because like we want, like I guess it's biological in some ways, and I don't want to generalize too much, but generally speaking, biologically, women are wired to be more agreeable. So we want to, you know, it makes it great when you live with other women and it's going well and nobody's, you know, being overbearing or anything. It makes it really great because we're willing to compromise and like change and like, you know, adapt ourselves to survive a situation or, you know, to please a new friend or to make a new friend, or like it happens a lot in relationships where like you really adapt to be with whoever you're with, which I think is a really positive thing when you're doing it for a really healthy reason. Like, right. When I adapt my cleaning habits so that I don't leave my piles for everyone to walk around, that's a healthy way. But like a lot of times, and I think women fall into this trap more than men, when you start adapting your values and who you are as a person and what's really important to you, you start compromising on that. Start letting things slide, which I've done it, you've done it, Sam's done it. I think every single girl we know has done it to the point, like to their own personal like breaking point.
Oh yeah.
Which some people go farther than others, which is, I don't know.
5 years.
You know, I applaud your endurance there. I will give you that. Like, I know that I'm too short-tempered to make things last very long when I'm feeling myself compromised. But I feel like that's something that women really struggle with, is the manifestation of, this is who I am, and these are my walls, these are my boundaries, and this is where, these are the lines that I won't cross. I won't tolerate somebody crossing. And I just think that's so important, because I mean, like, to really be present in the moment, to really, like, achieve everything that you want to achieve, you have to really step into your life and own it and be like, this is my life, and I'm the most important person in it, and everybody else that's in my life should be helping me in some way. Now, this doesn't mean that everybody's your best friend, right, but it does mean, and it doesn't mean that you don't get criticized, and it doesn't mean that people don't challenge you, or people don't, put you in your place when you're being a raging asshole. But it does mean that, like, you don't want to accept people into your life permanently who are actively destroying it. Right. And I think that's something I struggle with all the time. And I also struggle with behaviors that I have that destroy my life. That it's hard, and it's like and it's like a deeply emotional process to rid yourself of those things.
Of course, especially if some of these things have been rooted in your family. Yeah. For example, I struggle trying to not be like my parents in their negative respects. For example, my dad with his irresponsibility with money, and my mom with her spazzing.
She's a little neurotic there.
She's very neurotic.
Well, and it's hard because
I love her. She's got a good heart, but she struggles with attitude and overreacting, and I try to not be like them in their negative respects.
But then you bottle it up.
Yeah, which I was actually encouraged for 5 years in my most recent relationship to bottle up emotion, and there's this fine line between keeping something that you should keep in and feeling emotion and releasing it when you need to.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's all about intention, and I know we've talked about this before, but, like, you're allowed to have emotions. You're allowed to feel things, and I think that's really important, and I think that's really powerful, and I think women do it better than men. So, I wish to God that the men that I knew were more comfortable, and I wish that I could make them more comfortable sharing their emotions, because I know that we have this, and I don't want to blame society too much, but there is this culture saying, like, men are not allowed to be as emotional as women. Right. Part of it's because biologically they're not geared that way, but part of it is because, we have certain ideas of masculinity, some of which are healthy and some of which are not. Right. But, I think it's girls, a lot of times, women especially, tend to hide their emotions because for whatever reason we're afraid, like, nobody will love us anymore if they see that sometimes we get sad, or sometimes we panic, or sometimes we're assholes. Right. It's really tough to bottle that up, especially when you're encouraged to, especially when you live with somebody who can be unpredictable, and so you don't want to contribute to that because then you feed off of that energy. Right. And there's a phrase that I hate more than anything, and every time I see it, I just kind of cringe. Because I don't, like, the phrase, keep your head up? Mm-hmm. I hate that phrase.
Gosh, me too.
I hate that phrase because it's basically saying, like, be happy. It's fine. Everything's going to be fine. And sometimes it's like, no, put your head back down and do your work because you're falling apart. Right. And you got to pull it back together. And it can be tough to be honest with yourself and be like, okay, I've created this mess for myself because I freaked out. And I lost my mind, and I started, getting back into behaviors that destroy my life. And I guess a good example for me is that I've kind of skipped the gym the past 2 weeks. And part of it's because I lost my gym buddies. Part of it's because people have been moving in, but those are excuses. I could have gone to the gym a lot more. And so I was feeling like, I struggle with depression, and I struggle with anxiety and ADHD, and some of the best components, like the best tools you can use to fight against the void as it is, because once you fall down in that pit, it's just bottomless. Right. Is exercise and nutrition and forcing yourself to be social when you don't feel like it. And so I've kind of like felt myself slipping off, and like I had a moment a couple days ago where I just felt mean. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to like reach out and like hurt somebody for real. And my intention wasn't good.
Right. And
so that emotion I put away. That one I was like, okay, this is nothing but destruction. But then, you know, there are also days where I also had a bad day at work. I had a bad couple days at work. I've had a shit pile of a week.
Yeah.
And it's been really hard to deal with, but Thursday night I just kind of let myself be really sad about it.
Yeah.
You know, because I felt like so much was out of my control, and I just felt like being really sad. So I said, okay, well, tonight, you know, you can be sad. And it was cathartic because I woke up the next day and I was like, I'm gonna fix this. Mm-hmm. And that's, you know, that's put your head down and do work, not keep your chin up and pretend everything's fine and ignore the fact that shit is falling apart around you. You need to look down at yourself and be like, what have I done to create this issue? You know,
accept what you've brought upon yourself, and
right.
If it needs to be changed, admit it and work at it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, silly anecdote, you lost your water bottle for about 10 minutes today.
Yeah, and I just was like, I let myself be angry at myself for a couple minutes. Uh-huh. And then, lo and behold, found the water bottle.
Yeah, because you were like, damn it, gotta buy a new water bottle. And then you were like, damn it, I just probably should have double checked.
Yeah.
So
it's been a long day, and I get what I call run brain, where after anything longer than like 14 miles, I get kind of loopy.
You mean you get tired?
Tired, and my brain cells aren't firing like they should.
If I ran 14 miles, I'd be dead on the side of the road somewhere.
Oh no.
I'd just pass out probably mile 8. I'd be like, done. R.I.P. But it's okay. No, but I hate that phrase, because to fully appreciate like the best parts of life, you have to understand the worst parts of life. Mm-hmm. And that's something when you're finally coming into your own as a person. And I think the first time I felt like I had arrived into adulthood, I can't put my finger exactly on when I arrived into adulthood, but I think it happened somewhere around 20, after an anxiety attack, actually, the first one I ever had.
Oh wow.
I didn't know what it was at the time, but I remember it was right after I was hurt from rugby, so I'd been out of the game, and it was a new season, and I was deeply upset because, you know, I didn't feel like I was part of my community anymore, and I was hurt, so I couldn't even go work out, and then school was extra stressful because I was dual tracking, so I was doing design and product development, so I had 7 classes, 50 hours of class a week, plus 14 final projects basically across these classes. And so I was ultra stressed out, and I couldn't, like, I just feel like I didn't have a second to breathe, and I didn't feel like I had very many friends, and I wasn't being social, and I was living alone, and I was eating like garbage. I think I ate like 15 pizzas in the 2 weeks, so that's like a pizza plus a day. And there was a moment where I just was like plastered to my shitty apartment floor, and I couldn't breathe, and I was just like sobbing and looking like once it was over and I had some clarity on the situation, I knew it was an anxiety attack. But during the attack, the only thing going through my mind is like, this cannot be how my life is, and just telling myself, like, you know, I was like beating myself up and being super negative about it. But I was just like, this is not your life. You're making bad choices. You're doing the wrong things. This is your fault, and you need to pull it together, and you need to, you know, start living your life the way you want it to be. And then of course I spiraled into the but I don't know what I want it to be spiral, which, you know, contributed to the anxiety. But shortly after that, or maybe even during that, you know, that's when I started feeling like I'd arrived as an adult. Mm-hmm. You know, and I think that a lot of women have similar moments where you have an event, or even it just happens slowly, where one day you wake up and you're like, man, I'm really in this shit. This is the real thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, but you have, I mean, that's why I was like laughing, like you were in high school. Like, of course you were going to be garbage, because I don't think high schoolers have manifested it as individuals yet, unless you've had some kind of like cataclysmic event.
Right. I mean, there were people in my class who have definitely, like, they were grown when they were in high school, but that was because they had to, because their parents weren't around. They ended up having to take care of their younger siblings.
Yeah.
But for me, like, realizing my moment as an adult happened my second year of college, when I was going on my second co-op semester, which was my first one out of town. I moved to Brooklyn for a semester. Come back home after that semester.
It's a rough place to realize you're an adult.
Yeah.
That's a big place to be like, shit, I'm in it.
Yeah, but I actually really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the independence factor, and I got home and I moved back in to my mom and dad's house because I was a commuter student, and I was just like, this is awkward. I don't want to live here anymore.
This is not my home. Yeah.
Right. I ended up getting into a house with 3 other students from our school, and it felt much more natural that way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool moment. But, I feel like when you meet somebody that hasn't manifested as a person yet. Like, manifested as an adult, as a grown person, and taken responsibility of their life.
I'm dealing with one myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I mean, they could be any age, but there are so many people out there, especially women. I think this is one of the reasons why women are so terrible to each other as well. And I think this is one of the reasons why women are not more active in sports. And I think it's one of the reasons why women let themselves be so inhibited by their gender and so caught up in the idea of what they don't have, like their human rights or whatever. Like, I think that's one of the, like, you're looking around, somebody hasn't manifested as an adult is looking around for reasons why their life isn't going exactly the way they wanted it to.
Oh yeah.
And you just know when you meet that person, because there's just something hasn't settled in right. And a lot of times, in my experience, they are very whiny and like very very manipulative, and they don't want to take responsibility for anything that goes wrong.
Oh my gosh.
And it's just, you end up not wanting to be friends with that person, because you're like, come on. You think to yourself all the time, like, grow up, like really grow up. And basically, and then those people, they just get more and more angry, and they get more and more vicious, and that's been my experience. And it's just like, if you would just like take a step back and be like, wow, this is my life, and even though I didn't make this choice to be born and to grow up, I'm really in it. This is the real thing, and I need to make my decisions appropriately. And it doesn't matter, like, it's some people have it harder than others. It's just the way it is, and life isn't fair. And like, maybe your parents didn't teach you everything they should have taught you. They just, they're just people too.
I mean, my parents never taught me to cook or clean. I ended up learning that on my own when I lived in Brooklyn.
But your parents are just other people out there doing the best they can.
Right.
And to hold them responsible, to hold society responsible for your problems is a stupid thing, especially in this day and age. Yeah, hold the universe responsible. Come on. How childish is that? Right. Oh, gosh darn it, this cancer sign is making me emotional. Like, get
out of here with that.
Stop. Like, you're emotional because you haven't learned how to grow up and think logically through your emotions and decide, like, this is an emotion I'm allowed to, entitled to feel, or this is just some irrational shit that I'm throwing because I'm spoiled and 12 years old in my brain still.
Right.
And it's just, when you meet somebody like that, and it's just so frustrating because you're like, come on. Especially, and this is my problem, like, I pick the worst men sometimes. I've recently, like, as of like last year, I decided, and this is like my mantra forever, and I'm sharing it with everybody, I'm no longer teaching men how to be men. Because I got so sick and tired of picking my boyfriends based on their potential at the time. All right? I would make up all kinds of excuses. Oh, we're only in our 20s, so like, you know, it takes time to establish yourself. Okay, fair. But if you're just fucking around out there and you're not actively establishing yourself, you know, you no longer have potential. You're wasting it. And I'm no longer investing people solely on the potential they have. You know, in my life now, you have a matter of months to show me that you're dead serious about what you say you are. Because I am no longer, and that doesn't just go for men, that goes for women too. I am no longer fixing people who want to stay broken.
Exactly, and I was going to bring up this point too. 2 traits of people who have not grown into adulthood, that are basically grown children, that really irritate me are, 1, people who don't realize their impact on others based on their decisions, and 2, those who ask for advice
and don't
take it.
Yeah.
For example, I worked with this girl. She's one of my brother's good friends. Lives with him and my mom now. She's 22 years old. Still doesn't have her driver's license. We have all offered to help her.
That's
Work on it.
unacceptable. At 22, that's unacceptable. Like, to me, if I met that person, I'd be like, what are you doing?
Right. And she grew up in Eaton, Ohio, very small town. Hard to get around without a car, basically. So I'm like,
Yeah.
how does that work?
She's totally dependent on other people. And then resentful when they're not at her beck and call.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, we basically have to move around all of our schedules just to, like, tailor to hers, and
I wouldn't do it.
it's just not, she doesn't realize how her life is impacting ours. And also, like, a couple years ago, I used to pick her up from work because we used to work right across the street from each other, and I had just gotten my membership at LA Fitness, and I had guest passes, and I offered to take her because she asked for a workout buddy. I was like, of course, I'll help you.
Love to take you with me, yeah.
I'll help you with your nutrition. I'll help you with the workouts. I would love to have you come with me.
Yeah.
But she's like, well, I don't feel like working out after work. All I feel like doing when I get off work is go home and shower and then make memes on the internet. And I'm like, you work 12-hour days and you're just drained from that. I work 12-hour days and I still go to the gym. I actually have more energy after.
Yeah, well, because you have goals. And it's interesting that you mentioned that too, because like we recently had an episode where you had bottled up a lot of emotion and then you let it loose, except that you let it loose someplace maybe you shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I was with you, and I actually had to be more brutally honest with you than I've ever had to be with anybody else, and tell you, like, your actions just now embarrassed me, made me uncomfortable, and it's unacceptable in my presence to behave that way. And that's a really hard thing to say to somebody, let alone hear it from somebody that you care about. And you know that, but
I needed that, and I thank you for it.
Well, Jordan
Sometimes my
B.
autism gets in the
Peterson.
way.
Well, yeah, I don't know if it's autism, honey. I really think it's more just you're still recovering from an emotional ordeal where you twisted yourself up to make something that was broken work. All right, that goes back to we're not fixing men.
We're not polishing turds.
We're not. Yeah, polish a turd, it's still a turd. But there's this quote from a podcaster that I listen to and I like a lot, Jordan Peterson. I know I keep trying to get you to listen to all his stuff because I think it's really valuable.
I've listened to some.
Yeah, and you've got a lot of value out of it. Because I've noticed, like, when you listen to Jordan Peterson, you come at things a lot healthier.
Oh, yeah.
But one of my favorite things that he's ever said is that truth is a servant of love. And you know, when you check me sometimes too, and it's really easy to get caught up, especially when you're like in the process of manifesting yourself as an individual and putting yourself first, which is very important. Very important to be like, okay, this is my life and I need to do what's best for my life. And if you're not what's best for my life, I need you out of it. And if this action isn't what's best for my life, I don't need to do it. It's very easy to take that mindset a little too far, especially like I'm a highly ambitious, highly confident person, and I'm aware that I tend to be a little too blunt with the way with the way I present facts to people. I actually recently took like a personality index that said I was extremely high in compassion and extremely low in politeness. So like, I love you, but I'm rude as shit about it. And it's just like, I love that, because truth is the servant of love, because when somebody tells you the truth, even when it's sloppy, you know it's the truth. Mm-hmm. And I love when you check me and when you tell me the truth, and like, even though it's really hard, I feel better when I tell you the truth, because even though we might have an emotional outbreak afterwards, you know, maybe we cry, maybe we yell at each other, at the end of it, you know, and I feel this way every time, I feel like our friendship is getting stronger, because, you know, I've learned that not only can I tell you the truth, but you can accept the truth, and also reflect the truth back to me when I'm messing up. And it's just that's what you have to do. Like, you know, men are not trash. Just don't waste your time on men that don't want to be anything. Don't teach a man how to be a man. Let him be his, like, you have two options when you meet a person. You can accept who they are in that moment, meet them where they're at. Basically, like, move yourself emotionally, physically, whatever, to that location, and accept that and let them be that person, man or woman, friend, family member. Or you can choose to hold yourself high above or way below, depending on if you admire this person, if you think you're good enough or not good enough. You can hold yourself above or below that person and resent them for everything that you think you want out of them. And that's really, I think that's the core of it, is like, you can choose to resent people for who they are, or you can choose to accept them. And through accepting them and loving them and telling them the truth of what's best for them, you know, that's how you really get people to respect you and listen to you and love you and notice things about themselves that might be good for them if they change. But it's also how you protect yourself against people who don't want to change and who want to be destructive. And, you know, you can stand there with them, but you don't have to drown there with them.
Right.
And I think that that's something that everybody needs to think about, you know, in all your relationships. Not just like, oh, this relationship is hard, so I'm out, you know, but this person is going through something, or this person needs something, and now I have given you what I can, and I've tried my best, and you've still decided to hold your breath and suffocate. So I've got to step out. And that's really something that I'm working toward every day, and something that in the past year I've really kind of decided is my pursuit, is to do my best to help other people, because I feel like morally I feel obligated to care for others. And it's just something like I genuinely, it's hard for me to walk away from somebody or something that needs help.
Right.
But I tend to do it to a point where I damage myself. And I think a lot of women do that. I think a lot of women are so willing to help everybody around them to the point where it's detrimental to themselves. Not just like inconvenient, but genuinely detrimental to your health and to your well-being. Right. And I know that you suffered for years doing this, and it's really hard. But I've seen you, and I'm so proud. I've seen you growing through that and being able to say, this is my boundary, and I've helped you to the fullest extent that I can, and now I have to stop before I start hurting me for somebody who doesn't appreciate it. And it was so cool. It's been so cool to see that, because like you're one of my best friends, and I want you to feel as confident in yourself, and to know your boundaries, and to know that like there's no such thing as 10s and 2s and 1s and 5s in terms of hotness, and there's no such thing as people you deserve and people that you don't deserve. There's no such thing as the universe hating you or giving you what you've earned because of, you know, something that your parents did. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, you deserve exactly what you think you deserve. And I think that that's something, that's a hard truth that a lot of women don't want to face.
Right. And back to your point about women like having this maternal instinct to care for others, it gets to the point where they just load so much on their plates with helping others that they forget to help themselves first.
Yeah.
And you can't
give somebody water if your well is dry.
Right. I was trying to find the words for that.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to if your glass, it doesn't matter if it's half empty, half full. If the glass is dry, you can't drink.
And you can't give others something to drink.
Right. And I think that's something I do it all the time.
I'm struggling with that right now.
I know. I had to tell you when your brother got a speeding ticket down there. I said, Irene, you're down there for you. Hang up the phone and go do your run thing. And because it's easy to get caught up in it.
I had to tell my mom I can't house sit for you today. I've got my own
You've got
load of stuff I need to do.
You have your own life. You love your mother dearly, but you have your own life,
Right.
And that can be hard. But I think
it's hard for a widow, but like she's got to pull up her bootstraps and handle some
she
stuff
lost
on
her
own.
husband, and you lost your dad, and you're all working through it. But life doesn't stop,
Right.
and sometimes you have to. I think the most powerful thing you can do is take a step back. Take some time to yourself, like listen, because we all know it comes to us when you know that you need to spend some time on your own. So you have to take a step back and you have to say, I'm going to spend some time on my own. And for me, it's important not to set any kind of boundaries or any kind of goals for me to achieve. Like, it's important for me when I have this time to step back and really just drift a little bit, and I usually end up doing something really productive when I tell myself, okay, Saturday, you're going to take the whole day to yourself and just do what you need to do. And I might, sleep in, and I might sit on the couch and watch TV, but before the end of the day, I'm usually taking care of problems that I've been putting off, like filing my taxes and making art for my room and cleaning up the living room and getting a basket for my dog's toys so they're not laying all over the place.
Right.
That was today, by the way.
At home is awesome, by the way. We recommend.
It's the Mecca.
Yes.
And then also do a face mask. It'll fix everything.
Oh yeah. Guys can do it too.
Yes. So if you're having a bad day, if your week is in the shitter, but you're not a quitter, do a face mask. Oh man, it's just I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to be awake as a person. Mm-hmm. But it's worth it. It's so worth it.
Oh yeah.
And I'm so excited that you got to, and that you've been manifesting and becoming more present, and also so exciting that you got to meet one of your heroes. And we're gonna wrap up with this because I'm so excited for you.
Oh, yeah?
And she won the lottery to make it into the New York City Marathon.
I know.
So she didn't think she was gonna do that, but we're going in November.
Woo-woo!
So that's I honestly, this is crazy. This is my crazy coming out of me, but I genuinely believe that the past few months you have been putting so much positive energy out into the universe that the universe decided to return that to you. And was like, you know what? Her ticket's gonna get drawn for New York because she really needs it. And that's why, work hard, put your head down, do your work, be a good person, manifest as a person, own your life, and excellent, amazing things are gonna come. Mm-hmm. And I think this is just the beginning.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, well, let's wrap it up for the night because we've got some margs and tacos waiting on us.
Yes.
The end of self-care weekend is upon us. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for listening. If you have anything you want to share, if you have somebody that you think you want to hear on the podcast, let me know. If you want to contribute to the conversation, if you have any questions, I'd love to hear them. Otherwise, I'll see you next time.